Oh, I think we're talking about a massive cover-up. As I said, over the past 150 years, these archaeologists and anthropologists have covered up.
Here is an example of academic bias from the book Forbidden Archaeology. Page after page after page of scientific discoveries that have been suppressed because they don't fit the scientific orthodoxy's narrative.
So in science, you find that evidence that doesn't fit the accepted paradigm tends to be eliminated. It's not taught, it's not discussed.
That an archaeologist called Virginia Steen McIntyre published a scientific paper based on the dating of 250,000 years before the present.
To tell you the truth, I would have been happy, but I'm just going to stick with the date. We've got the information, we got the facts, let's get the facts out and go on from there. And I didn't realize it was going to ruin my whole career.
And that means that science fails to progress in the way that one would hope.
McIntyre subsequently lost her job, and others' careers were hampered. When she appeared on the TV show, it came under intense pressure from the scientific community to stop that. The atheistic bias in science, as it is largely practiced today. For instance, prominently, there is a strong bias, an insistent narrative from the scientific community that life originally evolved from chemicals. And this narrative is pushed rigorously by the media, in the educational system. And if anyone tries to go against that, even with good scientific arguments, then the atheistic community or the atheistic scientific narrative comes back. Pseudoscience, or they try to show how you're cheating. Scientists reject the idea of God as unscientific rather than examining the good evidence to support it.
The more I look at the universe, just the less convinced I am that there is something benevolent going on. So if your concept of a creator is someone who's all-powerful and all good, that's not an uncommon pairing of powers that you might ascribe to a creator. All-powerful and all good. So philosophers rose up and said, if there is a God, God is either not all-powerful or not all good.
They should use the scientific method that others have used. We'll get through to that soon when I analyze in little detail the intelligent design movement, which is based on science. It's not anti-science. You may say, well, I'm anti-science. Well, I am against that kind of science which is biased toward an atheistic conclusion. And you can see that, despite their so-called scientific method, they are biased. This physicalist bias, as Rupert Sheldrake points out, it holds back real science.
Matter is unconscious. The whole universe is made up of unconscious matter. There's no consciousness in stars, in galaxies, in planets, in animals, in plants. And there ought not to be any in us either, if this theory is true. So a lot of the philosophy of mind over the last 100 years is trying to prove that we're not really conscious at all. So the matter's unconscious, then the laws of nature are fixed. The laws of nature are the same now as they were at the time of the Big Bang, and they'll be the same forever. Not just the laws, but the constants of nature are fixed, which is why they're called constants.
People who want to investigate phenomena that can be studied by science, such as parapsychology or the origins of the universe seen through the lens of intelligent design. But in a scientific manner, they are stopped at every step. They try to be blocked by the scientific community, the orthodox scientific community. The media has the loudest voice, so might makes right. They dictate the required paradigm to the masses on behalf of whoever pays them. They can insult theists and call it pseudoscience or so many things they'll insult in so many ways. But theists, if they simply insult scientists, or atheists, sorry, I shouldn't say that, I should say if theists, even theistic scientists, use the same kind of ad hominem attack on atheistic scientists, oh, no, that's not good. There are many scientists in different fields of science who are openly theistic, or they go against the predominant paradigm, and they're denigrated, mocked, and sometimes they lose their jobs and career prospects. Atheistic bias. Funding gets prioritized over finding the truth. Here is an example of academic bias from the book Forbidden Archaeology. Huge tome by Richard Thompson, who's now departed, and Michael Cremo, with page after page after page of scientific discoveries that have been suppressed because they don't fit the scientific orthodoxy's narrative.
And we thought it was perhaps 20,000 years old, and at that time that was considered a very old age for the site. We did what they call radiometric dates, which gives an actual date range, and we used two different methods to do that. One was using uranium atoms, another one was using little zircon crystals. To tell you the truth, I would have been happy with a 20,000-year-old date. It would have made my career. It was very old for the time, but it wasn't so old that it was that controversial. People can take 20,000-year steps. They can't take steps that are over 200,000 years at one time. But I'm just going to stick with the date. We've got the information, we got the facts, let's get the facts out and go on from there. And I didn't realize it was going to ruin my whole career.
And that means that science fails to progress in the way that one would hope.
So therein, it's described that an archaeologist called Virginia Steen McIntyre published a scientific paper based on the dating of 250,000 years before the present. She brought this out, and several of her peers supported her conclusions. The stone tools were clear, strong evidence of human activity. However, the dating, although done by an academically recognized expert using the latest dating techniques, caused a storm of controversy because it was not at all in agreement with the standard academic view that humans only entered that region of the world about 10 to 15,000 years ago by migrating from Siberia via Alaska. The stone tools were put in a museum in Mexico City, and they, believe it or not, they disappeared, although facsimiles had already been made by the archaeologists involved. Prescience. Is there such a thing as prescience? You're not allowed to investigate it. Anyway, continuing with the unfortunate fate of this archaeologist. McIntyre subsequently lost her job, and others' careers were hampered. She was told, you withdraw this or you're out of a job. So she was out of a job. Of course, it's not all forgotten. McIntyre talked about her finds when she appeared on the TV show The Mysterious Origins of Man, narrated by Charlton Heston, a TV show which showed a variety of claims that contradicted or challenged the scientific consensus about humanity's origin and development. It came under intense pressure from the scientific community to stop that TV show. You can still see it on YouTube. The Mysterious Origins of Man. In some personal correspondence with Michael Cremo, he informed me, and it's taken from his books, that human antiquity, if we confine ourselves to material evidence accepted by the dominant group of scientists who are considered experts in that field, goes back 200,000 to 300,000 years ago. However, there are numerous anomalies that go back, how far? 400,000 years, 500,000 years. Numerous anomalies, Michael Cremo says, that go back 50 million years, and less numerous anomalies that go back hundreds of millions of years. You can read all about it in his book, Forbidden Archaeology. Another example of academic bias involving a major figure in astronomy, Sir Fred Hoyle. He was knighted. He was recognized as being so big in his field. He was the head of the Royal Society, the centuries-old institution, highly respected Royal Society, scientific organization. But he lost his whole position because he openly disagreed with the Big Bang Theory. He's considered a crank now. Scientist. Here's a quote from Paul Davies, well-known physicist. Many scientists who are struggling to construct a fully comprehensive theory of the physical universe openly admit that part of the motivation is to finally get rid of God, whom they view as a dangerous and infantile delusion. And not only God, but any vestige of God talk, such as meaning or purpose or design in nature. These scientists see religion as so fraudulent and sinister that nothing less than total theological cleansing will do. They concede no middle ground and regard science and religion as two implacably opposed worldviews. And of course, they see themselves as being absolutely right. Sounds pretty dangerous. Phew. Religion, fraudulent, sinister, total theological cleansing. Paul Davies says that this outlook describes the vast majority of 21st century cosmologists